back.
Yeah, mic check. What's good, man? We are back. We are officially live once again. Welcome to the Kickin The Real podcast. I am your host, Andy Diosa. If you're a first-time listener, thank you for being here. And if you're a multiple-time listener, thank you for being here as well. I'm very excited for this episode. We got a special guest in the building, my boy. He's coming to you live and direct from LA after running probably like 10 miles, I think he said, because that's what he does. Easy money. He is the founder of Sunday Runday LA, which if you didn't figure out by the name, it's a run club in LA. My brother Dom, man, thanks for coming through the kick with me. How you feeling, man?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Thank you for having me, bro. Appreciate it. This is gonna be exciting.
Yeah, man, my boy. I just found out the other day that this is his first podcast. So after this, it's only downhill from here, like we gonna set the bar high, and then like everything else, I'm sorry, but for those people that want Dom on your pod, I'll make sure that he's well-oiled machine by that time. But Dom, like I said, thanks for coming through, man. We're gonna get into all the good stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, you could already see I'm repping Sunday Runday LA, who just celebrated their 2-year anniversary. Congrats on that, and we will touch on that. But before I get started, I want to start this episode like I do all the other ones, man. It's just the origin story about how you got into running at whatever phase of life that was, because I know you played basketball back in the day, and I like to say we're retired athletes because we get to a certain age and we stop playing the way we thought we used to. But how did running come into your life, man?
No, I appreciate it. I'm originally from Chicago, and like you said, I grew up playing basketball. I actually played baseball too. That was my first sport. So running wasn't even like a thought growing up. Like that was like for most athletes, that was the punishment for any sport I played. So running was never a thing, but then I went and played basketball in college, and actually I lived in Nebraska, which is always a surprise to people. I lived in Omaha for a while, and when I was out there, I worked for one of Warren Buffett's companies, and I think he's like a majority owner or something for Brooks as well. So a lot of times they would have events. Brooks would also be one of the sponsors. Like we had company like 5Ks or whatever, and Brooks was always a part of it. So I started to kind of see running more, but I wasn't really in the running space. I would just do the three miles and just kind of call it like whatever. I wasn't even thinking about it. So then fast forward, I moved to LA in 2016, and I used to work part-time in a Nike store out here. And at that time, I was starting to get into running a little bit, but just on my own. Didn't know anything, again, like about running, run clubs, and all the stuff that I know now. But at Nike, they were sponsors for Koreatown Run Club, which is one of the biggest run clubs out here. And so I would see them a lot on Instagram. Sometimes if I was driving, I might see them running. And so one day I ran a half marathon in 2017. So that's kind of when I'd say I first started running. But it still was just like a one and done thing. Didn't even, again, like wasn't even a thought. But being in my basketball mind, I'm like, this is half the game, like with half in front of it. I was like, oh, I gotta do a full one for it to count. So my plan was to run one full marathon and call it good. And as I was thinking about signing up, I was like, I gotta train. So I signed up for LA Marathon 2019 and was training with Koreatown Run Club. And I would just show up and go home. I didn't make that many friends. I wasn't like doing much. But as I started training with them, everyone, all they talked about was running, like running other races where they were traveling to run. So I did LA Marathon. The time was, I think it was respectable for like, the average person. It was like 4.5 hours or so. But everyone was like, oh, you got to get sub 4. And then they kept moving the marker down. So I was like, all right, well, I'll try to run another one, get a sub 4. And at that same time, I got into Chicago Marathon too. So I ran LA and Chicago in 2019. But again, I still was in the basketball frame of mind. Like I was playing basketball every weekend, skipping long runs. So I wasn't well prepared. And then I ran another 4+ hour marathon. So I'm like, all right, I gotta figure it out. So then I started really locking in and ran like 350 something. But honestly, being a part of that community with Koreatown Run Club, you run with them as well. It was like everything was about running. And so I just kind of fell in love with it. And it was just something you could always do on your own or with a group. It was just like, it's easier to do without, you don't need like a team of 5 like basketball or 9 for baseball. So
Nah, that's fire, man. That's fire. That journey is dope to hear. And shout out to the KIC family, which is where I met Dom to begin with. But yeah, it's like you kind of you get sucked in, man. For lack of better terms, like you start running with the group because I was running a long time before I moved to LA, and then it was always solo. And then when I moved to LA, it was like, oh, there's all these groups that run with all these people, and then it kind of just amps you up. I remember training, you guys training for 2019. That was like the first time I was out here for LA Marathon. I was like, yo, this is crazy. And then it was like, all right, next year you got to do it. And I was like, all right, like I'm good. So I'll jump in and train for 2020. So it really is like that. And it's cool because how many marathons have you run now?
Yeah. So now fast forward, I'm like I'm running my 16th marathon next month. But yeah, it's so funny as I'm trying to keep it kind of concise to not ramble, but at the same time, there's so many different memories that I'm trying to like piece together. Like I remember when I ran LA the first time, something that stuck out. I kept running into Butter from Keep It 100, and that's always a memory I had because I didn't know him, but he's another black runner, and there's not obviously a lot of black runners in the space. So I would see him every like few miles. We pass each other, and I was just like, dang, like let me just try to keep up with him. Like that was just in the back of my mind. And then as I just started to, learn meet more people, it was just like a growing community. And I remember that specifically because I see him at, obviously all the runs and stuff and other marathons I've done. But that one, I think he was like someone that kind of stuck out to me as like, oh, I should keep going because he's someone that looks like me and I see him doing it already. He was like one of the first people.
That's dope, man. Salute to Butter, which is funny because the first person I saw at 2020 at Dodger Stadium was Butter. Like I was walking up there and I was like, where do I go? What do I do? And Butter like crosses me. He's like, yo, you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm good, man. I'm just trying to find the people. He's like, all right, man, good luck. So
yeah,
Butter, salute to the homie, man. Butter, keep it 100. That's the fam as well. And that's what I love about this and segueing into Sunday Runday. Like the run community in LA is so inclusive because everybody generally just like messes with each other and like are good friends. Like it's not like there's really no hate between people because you see people from different run clubs go to different groups and different days, and there's always something happening, which I love. And I don't know, you could tell me this, but this is why I do love the premise of Sunday Runday, your run club, because Sunday seemed like that off day. Like it seemed like the day that people kind of just relax. I know specifically for me, like when it's football season, I'm not to be bothered from September to January on Sundays, but like everybody's training or working so hard during the week on different runs and different places, and then Sunday just felt like that little gap where like truly you could do something. So I want to ask you about the idea behind starting Sunday Runday, like just having the initial thoughts of like you wanting to do that and then actually doing it, because it's two different things, right? Thinking about it and then putting it into fruition.
Yeah, for sure. Well, kind of going back before, I was a part of Koreatown Run Club and I was one of the captains for a while. And so I was the track captain, and I would try to get people to come to track all the time, but like at my job or whatever, but they were always intimidated. Like if I would just tell someone, just come out for a run, they're like, no, you guys are too fast or whatever. And I'm like, track is probably the easiest because you won't get left behind. Like we all going to see you. You can't get left, but people are always a little intimidated. So then once at KRC, they switched captains every year and a half. So once I was no longer the captain, I still run with them, but I was kind of looking we meet 4 times a week with KRC. And I was always thinking like, I see these people so much, but I really don't know them outside of running or the races they're about to do. Maybe it was just on me. I wasn't really using the time post run to like socialize as much because most of the runs are at night anyway. And I'm going home to get ready for work the next day. So I was like, kind of like you said, most of the runs are during the week or Saturday, and Sunday is kind of that off day that there was like some space for opportunity. And so my idea was really not to honestly start a run club per se. It was really going to be like a monthly event to bring runners from any run club or whatever together just to do a few miles, but then socialize afterwards. So brunch is something that I always try to do and hang out with people. So I was like, all right, we can do a run and just do brunch afterwards. It's simple and it'll be fun. So the first one, kind of like what you said, like it's a difference between like talking about it, thinking about it, and actually doing it. And the end of 2022, I was kind of just in a space where I was like, I'm tired of like just saying I'm gonna do something and not actually do it. And so I had no plan, honestly. Like I didn't know what restaurant we would go to, didn't know where we would meet, but I went on Instagram and just put it. I just went on Instagram and just posted on my story like, hey, I'm gonna host this run January 8th, 2023. And I had set up like an Eventbrite, and I was like, it's gonna be brunch and whatever. So after I posted it, like that same day or two, like 25 people signed up. I remember like, I'm like, oh crap, like now people are gonna like expect something to happen. So then, and I also wanted to pay for brunch too. So that was the other thing. I had to put some sort of a limit on it because like I can't pay for like, 50, 100 people. So I started to like kind of look around. I live downtown LA. So I was like looking at places downtown that could host like 25, 30 people and kind of have a reasonable price. Cause I was like, if we're going to make a reservation, I don't want to be $5,000. I don't know, I don't know what it would cost, but I didn't want to be like something crazy. So I put a cap on the Eventbrite for a little bit, like 30 people, and just to get an estimates. And I found a place. I was like okay with the price because I was like, at the end of the day, I'm like investing back into the community that I'm a part of, and I just hosted it. I was just like, people show up, this brunch, and we're going for a run, and then people did, and so we did it. It was fun, and afterwards, I didn't know what was going to come next. Like my thought was like monthly because that was like a manageable cadence. I knew I couldn't pay for brunch or a reservation every time, but I was like, if people come back, I think people will be okay paying for whatever they want if they want to do brunch. But people were like, oh, I just want to go run too on Sundays. There's not that many run clubs on Sundays. And so I took 1 week off, and then the next week we just had it in different places downtown. I just would find like an open space where we could gather. And then not everyone always wanted to have brunch too. This was like, January, usually people are like back into their fitness. They don't want to drink. They're doing dry January, things like that. And they're just being healthier. So I was like, all right, we can do it at a coffee shop. That keeps the social aspect. So the first few weeks we just met somewhere like a park and we'll go to a coffee shop. And then I found a local coffee shop downtown and I reached out. They were like, hey, we can host you guys. We'll give you like a discount on coffee when you run. And that was Cognizant Coffee downtown. And so that became like our hub. And I just would like do it every week. Like I would just post the link or create a route on Strava, post it on Instagram, and say, here's the route, here's what we're doing. It was always 3 miles. I kind of wanted to make it where people that weren't runners or, identified themselves as runners or just starting couldn't do the distance. But then someone who's like experienced would still feel like they're getting a little bit of a workout. So that was the whole plan. And honestly, I was just surprised it just kept growing. Like the first few months were a little smaller and slower just because, in LA, relatively cold, but it was like 40, 50 degrees. It would be raining some days. So it was a little smaller, but then I can't remember like what like instantly made it grow. I know I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but I remember February we did like a Black History Month themed runs. And so I looked up different like Black historical locations in downtown. And so we would run to those locations. I would give a talk about the area or the location, and then we would continue our run. So I did that for February. And I think a lot of people like that concept. So that was like a busy month. KRC did this one thing in the summer too, where they were partnering with different run clubs and going to their neighborhoods. And so we did a collab run one of the weeks. So that was a big turnout. And I think introduced us to a lot of new runners as well. But yeah, I think after the first year, maybe the biggest thing was when we started to get people that were like training for races, and like this was their first time running a race, and they were representing Sunday Runday. And that's when I was like, oh, I guess we're more of a run club now, because people were starting to like want to run more outside of those 3 miles, and then they want to do half marathons and all this stuff. So I can't remember I think the first race where someone wore like a Sunday Runday singlet was Pasadena Rose Bowl half 2024. And then from there, we just had people that would, do more races. And then we actually got accepted into the Speed Project too. So that was a big, race for us to gain some exposure. So yeah, it just kept growing organically. Like as people start to join and start to do more races, I had to kind of, do some of the similar things that other run clubs did, like, make merch and, be at different races and just, I mean, I was already going to races to support, but like showing up at Sunday Runday LA and supporting in that way. So yeah, it was all organic, but it was just kind of like slowly snowballed.
That's the perfect description, because like I've seen it. I was there the first day,
Yeah.
and just see like, look what you guys started, man. Dom just wanted to have some French toast and some mimosas, and now you guys got him out here making merch. But it's a genuinely dope thing to see, because it has grown so much in the 2 years, and just seeing that presence, like you mentioned, you're gonna go to races because you're supporting friends and different run clubs in general, but like now you're going and you're representing your own brand, and it is dope because you see the singlets, you see the shirts. Like I mentioned, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm repping one of them. And it's like, that's just a awesome thing to see, because it all starts with an idea, right? And I always tell people, like, have your ideas is great, but it's like you have to start acting on them, and that's what really that's what you really feel like, man, I actually did something. And like I mentioned up the top, you guys just celebrated a 2-year anniversary. Congratulations on that. You talked about weather and stuff like that. Rain. It was raining crazy the other morning, but it was a great turnout. I love the if you didn't go, you don't have this custom shirt. I have it. I was gonna show it on camera, but I'm not even gonna do that to y'all. But it's a custom shirt, and like you mentioned, I love the fact that I love about it the most is the bottom of it has all these races that you guys have been a part of, right?
Yeah.
Chicago, Berlin Marathon, and all these different things. So seeing how far all of it has come in just 2 years, you might have mentioned some already, but like, what have been some of your favorite moments as a collective, as a group, just having everybody together, repping the brand?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think the Speed Project was one of my favorites. That's for those that know, it's a relay race from LA to Vegas. And so we had a team of 8 runners, I think 6 or 7 crew members to support us. And that was nice because like you get closer together because you're spending that whole 300 miles together. But we also got lost at one point. We had to like figure stuff out on the fly. So that was a special moment for us. And then I think it just also gave us more exposure as well. But being a part of that was something special for me. I think the first year, like we did an end of year anniversary or celebration in December 2023, and I think that was like the first time when like a lot of people showed up just to celebrate, and I was just like, wow, like it's real, like it's not just like this idea. And I think in the moments of just like doing the runs every week, you kind of lose sight of it because you're always gonna run anyway. So, but then the celebration when people just came together and just they either if they ran with us or not, they just wanted to like celebrate. I think that was like a moment for me to like soak it in that like it was something that was building and something that people like really valued. I guess the last one, I think it's a smaller race out here. It's like the I think it's called Bimbo Global Race or something like that.
Yep.
But it's a 5K and I think a 10K option. But I think that was one of the first times this past year, 2024. That was the first time where like it wasn't me like trying to get Sunday Running to do something, like people like in the club to do something. They genuinely were like, "We're gonna run this race. Like, can you get us some merch and do all this stuff?" And it was like out of my hands. Like I don't even think I was there. I went to a wedding that day for another runner friend of mine. I think I went to see them start off and then I had to leave. But it was like one of the first times where it's not me showing up at Sunday Runday. It was like the community, like the Sunday Runday community itself showing up. And I just felt that was special for me because now I never wanted to be about me. And I think as you start something, of course, you have to be the face of it. But after a while, you can kind of like step back because it's grown to more than just you. And that was probably one of the first times I started to really witness that because I wasn't a part of it or planning it. I was just other people kind of took over.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to bring that up too. Like, you're always, of course, spearheading a lot of things, but I think it's dope to see the continuous people, right? The people that grow to be like the core of the group that, if I pull up the Sunday Runday, I'm going to see X, Y, Z. Or you got Liz out there taking pictures. You got Brandon out there like guiding the routes and stuff like that. And it's like, it's cool because like you mentioned, of course, it's a take a step back, but it's a testament to you to be able to create something like that. And then also have the people that are like, yeah, we're going to mess with it and continue to come back and truly enjoy it. And I think that's what it's about when you talk about off the top, like the sense of community, the same thing that we feel with KRC and all these other run clubs that we're a part of is like now you created that on your own. And what you were saying before, like not necessarily like knowing people on a personal level prior to, now it's like now you have this group of people that is like you guys been in the desert in RVs and getting lost together, and you guys done these races together. It's dope because that I like you see it in just in the 2-year like anniversary. Like some people pulled up just to pull up. It was like I'm not even running. Like I'm just here to like celebrate, big up, Dom and Sunday Runday, and like even the TSP, the send off where you were selling the merch and stuff like that. Just cool little different things like that. It shows a lot, and it obviously means a lot to community because the one thing I will say is like a lot of times things with with the run clubs is that everybody's trying to rep, right? So like the one thing I love is I probably have a shirt from like every group I've run with. So I'm like at any given race, I'm gonna pull up and wear somebody's merch. But like it's cool because there's a sense of pride in that, right? There's a sense of pride. This is my group here now, and it's prominent like in this big ecosystem of runners and things like that. It's super prominent, which is dope because you're like I mentioned, you're tapped into all these different groups and different people, and it grows organically. So it's super dope, man. Once again, congrats on the 2 years. Cheers to many more. And in that same breath, what does the future hold for you guys as a group? I mean, I'm sure you want to do more brunches, but people just want you like, yo, let's do these miles. But what's the future plans for you?
Yeah, I know right now we have a few people running the LA Marathon in March, so that'll be big for us. We're also doing the speed project again this year. So we'll have those 2 races coming up. I think honestly, I haven't like fully baked this idea out yet, but I know I want to host or do something like an unsanctioned race as well. There's a few clubs out here that already do unsanctioned races, but I'm trying to think of like something creative that could still capture the Sunday Runday spirit, but still be fun and competitive at the same time. But yeah, I think who knows? Like, I think anything can happen. I think more partnerships with brands and other run clubs. I think kind of what you said a little bit ago, like being a part of all the run clubs. Like for me, I think it's because I came into running just like, I just want to do this for myself. It wasn't like an agenda. So, and so that's why when I said I didn't have any friends in the run club at first, I would just show up to run and go home. And I think my experience with KRC and then also with other run clubs, but the way that they elevated me and like kind of got me out of my shell, I think that's kind of what I want to bring to new runners in Sunday Runday as well. Like how you mentioned Liz taking photography, like or doing photography for the group. That's hoping to elevate her. Brandon, he comes and leads with us, and I don't even have to ask. And so I think it's like elevating people in whatever capacity I can. If they have ideas that they want to see Sunday Runday do, I'm always willing to try to like make it happen. So I think that's just from my experience coming into the community, I'm trying to continue that same spirit of just community, no matter what crew or club you rep. So.
No, that's a great point, man. I love that because when you mentioned it earlier, I forgot. I was like, yo, Dom was a captain at track at KRC. It's like time flies so long because I've been here since the end of 2018, and like you mentioned, they switch over captains, so it's like you get used to like seeing people, and then it's like okay, like who's the next group? So yeah, and that's a great point because like I think I was kind of the same way in the beginning too, where like I made my core group of friends, but then I was like that was that, and it's like I talked to the same people almost every time, and like. I think I've been more conscious about it now. It's like, all right, go out. Like, these are all new people. Like, the same way that somebody talked to me the first day I was at KRC, like, it's the same way that you should, try to kind of do that for somebody else. And I think that's probably the dopest thing about it, besides the fact that people are tapping into, their fitness and all different things like that and different aspects of, like, professional. Like, we all have our different lives and careers, too. And, like, you could kind of all combine that all in one somehow. And it kind of creates the essence of having like a good solid group and core people around you, which is valuable in times like these. I gotta say shout out to Charisma. I hope she listens because I know she will, and if we don't shout her out, she might cuss me out the next time I see her. So shout out to Charisma. It's a good group of people you got, definitely as a collective, and like I think that energy anytime I pull up on Sundays is definitely reflected, because it's funny, I'm not even a coffee drinker, and I was like I'll pull up to the runs and chill for a little bit after, just like hang out with people. But the brunch, I do appreciate the brunch. Thank you.
It's funny now that I think back, and I was laughing. So Dewey, one of the founders of KRC, I was trying to clean out my apartment and this might be the origin of like the Sunday Runday idea. I found an old like printout sheet where I was trying to like create this social committee within KRC. It was like 2019, 2020 or something. And I was like, I don't even remember doing this. I had like a whole like agenda for a meeting and like all this stuff that I was going to probably present to him. And I texted him the other day. I was like, I don't remember making this, but I guess I was going to pitch this idea to you. I had like chair members for the committee and all this stuff. So I must have like always had this idea of like doing some social thing that I just can't even remember now. And now I guess it grew into what Sunday Runday is.
You know what? I don't want to make light of this, but the pandemic,
yeah,
parade. If the pandemic never happened, you might have been onto something. But hey, man, it turned out for you a Sunday Runday. I want to ask you about your personal, because you, like you mentioned, you run a lot of different marathons, and you're from Chicago, so I know you probably have a little bit of love towards that hometown race. But what have been your 3 favorite marathons? Either if it's just like energy, if it's the people that, you know, the experiences that you had personally, or maybe it's just like 3 races that you're like, yo, I have my best performances in, because, you know, they're all very different in their own ways. So what are the top 3 for you? Because maybe some people listening to this will be inspired to be like, yo, let me check this out and type in.
I know. Well, I feel bad because 2 of them are majors, and those are the toughest ones to get into. But if you can run them, I'd say I recommend them. But my first one, Chicago, was the first major I ran, and obviously that's my hometown, so that was one of my favorites. But I would say this past year was my favorite time running it, because my mom and dad and sister, they were actually at the finish line volunteering to give out the medals. So that was a cool experience to be able to get my medal from my family, and like other runners I'm friends with, they were at the finish line. They finished around the same time. So there's a bunch of us getting our medals. I think New York is another one that's like, you can't, like, the energy of New York Marathon, I have not seen anywhere else. Like it's nonstop noise, except for like the bridges or whatever. It's just energy the entire time. Like I had my headphones in, didn't even have music playing. So New York is definitely a vibe. And then for me, I think it's a good race too, but also it's one of my favorites just because it was my first international race, but I ran the Paris Marathon last year. And so that one was fun because, my first international. It's a pretty flat course too, so it's not like that difficult relatively. And then there's a lot of support and crowd support there too, but it was a really fun race, well organized. So but being in my first international one, that was one of my favorites too.
It's a good list, man. I could definitely agree with Chicago. It was also my first major that I ran. That was 2016. It was a long time ago now, but the energy in Chicago is great, and the fact that it is 6, and I'm not planning on doing the 7, brother. I tell you that much right now. You heard it here. It's in recording, so please leave me alone. Nah, but Chicago, I loved it. It was a great experience, and the fact that you had your family at the end with the medals that last year, is super dope. And New York is. I think the more you hear people talk about it, it's really almost the same sentiment every time, but is probably nothing like it. Like the energy is through the roof. I ran it twice, and it beat me up twice because that course is relentless. But it's always been like a memory that I'm like, man, like this was. I regretted it in the moment, but it's always one of those things that you're gonna have with you. It's amazing. And then internationally, Paris is dope. And you've done, like you mentioned, you guys have done a bunch of different races as a group. And I will say, man, they look fresh out there. Them Sunday Runday singlets, when you see them pass you, I'm like, yo, these are fire. These are fire. I love them. So keep an eye out for that. If you out in these races, man, you never know. You might just be like, yo, I see Sunday Runday right there. I know this
coming out soon. Like this, a part of like the group growing. Like I'm asking other members to help do stuff, and so like we have a member, Monet. She's like a really dope designer, so she's gonna design a couple singlets, especially for Lamb. So I think like I'm not that creative, so I gotta start asking. Even the logo. Luckily, one of the earlier runners, she moved to DC. She created the logo for us, and like, I think it's dope to like get all the ideas and all the input from other people in the group. So
tapping into that kind of that essence. How have you seen the support? Has it been? I don't want to say easy because it's like nothing is technically easy, but like you mentioned earlier with the KRC doing the run series and kind of tapping in and just like seeing Butter at your run, seeing Kip from Movement Runners at your run, like seeing people from all these different groups that pull up. How has that support been? Not only just like in terms of the LA community, which we know is huge, but in general, because social media, man. Like it's like we're talking about local because we're here, but like the outreach is massive.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been good support, and I think part of it is because I think it was because I was in the LA running community beforehand. Like people saw me running with different groups, and it wasn't like, I mean, I try to create content, but it was not like I'm the typical content creator just trying to do something, cheesy to grow. I'm really just there to be in the run. So I think that's part of why I've gotten gotten support from other run clubs and other runners. And I think if I reach out to anyone, like they're willing to support. I also got to keep in mind, like people are running their own, they're like leading their own run club. So they're really busy outside of that. So sometimes if you're like, oh, they didn't come to this event or whatever, like a lot of run clubs meet multiple days a week. So they got so many things going on. But I think for the most part, like there's genuine support from everyone. And if I reach out and ask, like they would be willing to do anything. So yeah, I think it's just a part of who you are. If you're genuine, people will support you. And so I think they see that because I was already supporting everyone else before I had anything to like offer, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's dope, man. It's all like I said throughout the episode, man. Like it's all genuine stuff, and I think that's the way you see things grow. Like it's easy in any field, to me at least. If you're a real one, it's easy to weed out. Like, yo, this person is doing something for this reason, or this is actually like something that you want to support and motivate. And it's been like that from the beginning. That's the way things grow. So keep it up, man. Keep it up. Congratulations to the group, to you. Obviously 2 years is it goes by quick, man. It goes by really fast, especially when there's so many things happening in the world. Like even the anniversary, like you had it planned for one day and then the wildfires started happening in Southern California, and it was like, all right, let me like hold this because there's obviously more important things happening. But even to that like point, like you guys organized, got supplies and donations and things together to help out. So it's like that's what community is about, and in this time, in this crazy world that we live in, is needed more so than anything. So yeah, keep it up, man. Keep inspiring the community. Keep getting people running. Because I know for you, it's like this your thing, man. You put the numbers on the board easily, like it's nothing. I was like, yeah, I gotta run 10 miles. I'll holler at you later. I'm like, all right, man. I gotta go do the dishes or something.
Yeah. But before we wrap up this, I was gonna say because now it is easy for me to just go out. But I will say I started by just doing like 2 miles a day. So like for anyone listening who's like, damn, I'd never run 10 miles. I remember the first long run I went to do, it was a 12-mile run. I made it to 8 and I had to take a bird scooter back. Like that 8 miles was tough, but like I was like, I can't make it back. And when I got back, there was like so many people already done. I was like, how y'all done? I took a bird scooter and like didn't even like, so we all start somewhere, but like I started with I said, I'm gonna do 2 miles a day for 30 days. That was like my start of like trying to get consistent. And then from there, it just kept snowballing.
No, that's real. That's a great message, because like I think as runners, we get caught up in like, oh, like the mileage and things, and I think it's stuff that's so natural to us. But there's people that are just starting. There's people that like want to start but are scared, and like we all started the same way, man. Like try to run a mile, try to run 2, try to run 3, and then it just grows and grows and grows, and then it becomes this thing that is like it's almost infectious with the energy. And if you have the ability or just the opportunity to run with people, like it does make a big difference, and that's why these run clubs and these run groups are so important. Aside from what they want to make you believe on Instagram and all these different things, like there's genuine people that like legitimately want to run and want to keep working on their fitness and stuff like that. So it is dope, man. It's just it's funny because I tell Dom, we'll talk all the time and be like, he's like, yo, you be turning up when it comes to like the chair zones in the chair section. I'm like, yo, it's a lot more fun on this side than it is on the other side. You're gonna see this year for LA Marathon how much fun it is.
I'm not running, I'm cheering. I'm like, I'm having mimosas out there, everything.
Because I'll see Dom and I'll be like, yo, you running this? He's like, nah. And then like the next week, he's like, yeah, I signed up. I'm like, bro, it's nonstop. But hey, man, you do it while you can do it, bro. That's power to you, because like sometimes like you get that runner's high is a real thing, and then you're like, yo, I'm tapped in. And especially now that you have a group that it's, I don't want to say under you, because that's a bad term, but it's a group that's with you, and it's like, yo, if you're motivating them, if I'm out here doing it myself, like y'all should be out here too. Like why not? Let's do these things together and rep the group. So yeah, keep doing it, man. It's all love. Sunday Runday, LA, tap in. But before I let you go, since this is a conversation, predicated on brunch because you love brunch so much. This is something I did know about Dom early on when we met here in LA. I want to know what are your top spots in LA, man? Like I know there's a lot of good areas or just spots that you frequent for brunch because brunch is an important thing, man. And you have a run club on Sundays, which is like a big brunch day. So we got to tap in with that. Let the people know.
I know. I feel like I'm gonna let people down with my answers because I'm very basic. I mean, my one criteria really is bottomless mimosas, but I would say I frequent this place called Zenke. They have a location downtown right by me, so I go there a lot. They have some like good French toast, so I always go there. What is the place? I'm not saying the food is that great, but I go to Jameson's because there you can watch sports, you can like mimosas or whatever food. I guess I'll pick Republique is another really popular one. So I'll go with them. I think they have really good food, and it's like if you go there, I think the line is usually down the block trying to get in. So I think that speaks for itself. I've only been a few times, but they have a really good brunch too.
Nah, there's a lot of spots. I'll ask you an even more important question. You got to rank waffles, French toast, and pancakes. What is your ranking with those three?
Oh man, I might do. Well, French toast is number one always. French toast, pancakes, and then I'm gonna go waffles.
Okay, I can respect that. I think I got French toast. French toast and waffles for me is fighting, but pancakes, I don't know, man. They got to me, pancakes got to be really good, or they just like regular. You know what I mean?
That's true. As I was even saying it, like the waffles at like a Roscoe's, I love those thin waffle. But sometimes I'm not a fan of Belgian waffles, so you might get that and it'd be like ruins the whole thing. So
it's too much sometimes. Yeah. Like you get a good French toast, you're like, all right, man, this is enjoyable, probably 10 out of 10 times. And then I ask you this: is LA is such a big breakfast burrito place? Where are your spots? Because I know you probably mess with Wake and Lake because it's right around you.
Yeah, I will. Man, LA. I mean, if you're from here, maybe you're just used to it. LA is so overpriced too, so that's the tough. Wake and Lake is good, but man, it's expensive. So I will go there. Actually, my favorite place. Dang, I can't even think of the name right now. This is gonna blow me. It's in Culver City. Dang, and it's a Black-owned restaurant. I gotta find it before we go, but it's off of Robertson, Undergrind, and Culver City. That they got great breakfast burritos. That's probably every time I do a long run on the west side, I always stop there on my way back downtown. That's like my go-to.
So. Hey, I mean, we learned that. Actually, I work in Culver City, so I got to put that on the list. I don't think I've ever been. Maybe I have, but that's on the list then for sure. I'm trying to think if I ever hit it up, but I'm gonna add it.
It's by the I forgot what that high school is called on Robertson, but not too far from there. It's good.
It's good information, and I always tell people you're not going to hear a podcast that are talking about running and then switch over and talk about food so effortlessly. But it's two things that I love, so why not share with the people? Dom, once again, my brother, thanks for being here. The best of luck to everything you got going on with Sunday Runday, and personally, we'll see each other soon out on these streets getting these miles in. I'll make sure all the information is linked in the YouTube bio and stuff like that, so you can follow Dom, follow the platforms, tap in with the club, and support. Once again, if you're watching on YouTube, you see me repping one of the shirts. Look out for the new merch and everything great coming from Sunday Runday. Dom, man, I appreciate you, bro.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much, bro. See you soon.
Until next time, love y'all. Peace.